You know that one person who somehow always has the worst day ever? Like, every single time you talk to them, it's a new tragedy. They got cut off in traffic, their coffee was cold, their boss looked at them weird, and now the universe is personally out to get them. And look, we all have bad days. But some people, they collect bad days like Pokemon cards. So what's actually going on in their brain when someone becomes a professional victim? Let's dive into the psychology behind this surprisingly common pattern. First off, let's get something straight. We're not talking about actual victims of real trauma or injustice here. Those people deserve support, period. We're talking about something psychologists call the victim mentality, which is basically when someone's brain gets stuck in a loop where they interpret almost everything as something happening to them, never because of them. It's like their internal narrator is permanently set to tragic backstory mode. And weirdly enough, this mindset actually serves some psychological functions. The brain doesn't do random things. There's always a reason. One of the biggest payoffs of playing the victim? Attention, and not the shallow kind. We're talking about deep, emotional attention that feels like care. When you're the victim, people rally around you. They comfort you, validate you, ask how you're doing. For someone who maybe didn't get enough emotional attention growing up, this can become addictive. It's like finding a cheat code for human connection. The problem is, it's a cheat code that eventually corrupts the whole game. But in the moment, it works. Here's where it gets really interesting. Playing the victim also protects your ego in a sneaky way. Think about it. If everything bad that happens is someone else's fault, you never have to face your own mistakes or shortcomings. Failed that test? Teacher hates you. Relationship ended? They were toxic. Didn't get the promotion? Office politics. It's a psychological shield that keeps your self-image intact. You're not flawed, you're just unlucky. You're not the problem, the world is. And honestly, that feels way better than accountability. There's also something called learned helplessness that plays a huge role here. This concept comes from research where subjects were put in situations where they had no control over negative outcomes. Eventually, even when they could escape or change things, they just didn't try anymore. They learned that nothing they did mattered. Some people develop this mindset in life. Maybe they grew up in chaotic environments or had controlling parents. Their brain literally learned that taking action is pointless. So they just accept the victim role because trying feels futile. Now let's talk about the control paradox, because this is wild. You'd think victims feel powerless, right? But here's the twist. By being the victim, you actually gain a weird kind of control. You control the narrative. You control people's emotions. You control how others have to tiptoe around you. It's passive control, but it's control nonetheless. You become the main character in every story, and everyone else has to play supporting roles in your tragedy. It's manipulative, sure, but it's also a survival strategy for people who feel genuinely powerless in other areas. Here's something most people don't realize. The victim mentality often comes with a side of moral superiority. If you're always being wronged, that makes you the good guy by default, right? You're the innocent one, the righteous one. Everyone else is mean, unfair, or against you. This creates a psychological fortress where you're always morally elevated. You can judge others harshly because, hey, they're the ones hurting you. It's a twisted but effective way to feel better about yourself without actually doing the work of personal growth. Let's get into the neuroscience for a second, because your brain actually gets rewarded for this behavior. When you tell your victim story and people sympathize, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. When people validate your suffering, you get a hit of dopamine. It's literally addictive on a chemical level. Your brain starts craving these interactions. It's not that people are consciously being manipulative. Their brain has just learned that victimhood equals neurochemical rewards. It's a feedback loop that's incredibly hard to break. Another major factor? Identity fusion. For some people, being a victim becomes so central to who they are that they can't imagine life without it. It's like asking someone to give up their personality. All their stories, their relationships, their self-concept, it's all built around this narrative. Taking that away feels like ego death. They literally don't know who they'd be if they weren't the person things happen to. So they cling to it desperately, even when it's destroying their life. Because a painful identity still feels safer than no identity at all. Now, childhood trauma plays a massive role here, and we need to talk about it. Kids who grew up in invalidating environments, where their feelings were dismissed or they were blamed for things beyond their control, sometimes overcompensate as adults. They become hyper-focused on being validated. Every slight feels like proof that the world is still against them, just like it was back then. It's not manipulation, it's a trauma response. Their nervous system is stuck in threat mode, interpreting neutral events as attacks. They're not making it up. They genuinely feel persecuted. Here's where relationships get complicated. People with victim mentality often attract rescuers, people who have a compulsive need to save others. This creates what psychologists call the drama triangle. You've got the victim, the rescuer, and usually a persecutor, someone to blame. These roles keep rotating, and everyone stays stuck. The victim gets attention, the rescuer feels needed, and the persecutor gets to be the villain. It's a toxic dance where nobody actually grows. And weirdly, all three roles are deeply codependent. Everyone's getting something out of staying stuck. Let's talk about responsibility allergy. That's not the official term, but it should be. People with victim mentality have a genuine aversion to taking responsibility, and it's usually because responsibility was weaponized against them. Maybe they were blamed for everything as kids. Maybe they were held to impossible standards. So now, any hint of accountability feels like an attack. Their brain literally perceives it as danger. When you suggest they had a role in something, their defense mechanisms go into overdrive. They're not being stubborn. They're protecting themselves from what feels like emotional violence. There's also something called external locus of control at play here. This is a fancy way of saying some people believe their life is controlled by outside forces, luck, fate, other people, anything but themselves. It's the opposite of people who believe they shape their own destiny. And here's the thing, if you genuinely believe you have no control over your life, then yeah, you're going to see yourself as a victim. Because in your mind, you are. Everything happens to you because nothing is ever because of you. It's a worldview, not just an attitude. Now let's discuss the social media effect, because oh boy, has technology supercharged this. Online spaces literally reward victimhood with likes, shares, and comments. The algorithms love emotional content, especially grievance-based stories. Post about your struggles and watch the engagement roll in. This creates a reinforcement cycle where people unconsciously learn to frame everything as victimization because that's what gets attention. We've gamified suffering, and some people, often without realizing it, optimize their content for sympathy. It's not always conscious manipulation. Sometimes it's just pattern recognition in action. Here's a harsh truth. The victim mentality eventually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you constantly expect to be wrong, you interpret ambiguous situations as hostile. You see rejection where there's none. You create conflict through hypersensitivity. And then, surprise, people actually start avoiding you or treating you poorly. Not because they're bad people, but because it's exhausting to be around someone who's always hurt, always offended, always under attack. So the victim creates the very rejection they feared. It's tragic, really. The thing they're trying to prevent, they manifest. Let's talk about the empathy trap, because this is where things get really manipulative, even if unintentionally. People with victim mentality become experts at triggering others' empathy. They know exactly what to say, how to frame their suffering, when to look vulnerable. It's not necessarily calculated. They've just learned what works. And empathetic people, especially those with codependent tendencies, fall for it every time. They feel guilty for not helping, responsible for the victim's pain. It's emotional manipulation through learned behavior. The victim might not even realize they're doing it. There's also what I call the comparison Olympics. Some people with victim mentality can't let others have problems. If you mention you're tired, they're exhausted. You have a headache? They have a migraine. You're stressed? They're having a breakdown. It's not that they're lying. Their brain genuinely perceives their suffering as always worse, because being the biggest victim means being the most worthy of care. It's a zero-sum game in their mind. If you suffer, that threatens their supply of sympathy. So they have to one-up you. Every single time. Now here's where things get complicated with actual social justice. Some people hide behind legitimate causes to avoid personal accountability. They conflate systemic issues with their personal behavior. Like, yeah, maybe there are real systemic problems at play, but that doesn't mean you're not also sabotaging yourself sometimes. It's possible for both to be true. But for people with victim mentality, acknowledging any personal role feels like betraying the cause or invalidating real oppression. So they refuse to look inward at all. Everything becomes political. Nothing becomes personal growth. Let's talk about emotional labor dumping. People with victim mentality often make their emotional state everyone else's responsibility. They trauma dump without consent. They expect you to manage their feelings. They call in the middle of the night with the same crisis for the 100th time. And if you set boundaries, you're abandoning them. You're proof that everyone leaves. You're the bad guy now. It's exhausting because you can never do enough. Their emotional needs are bottomless, and they've outsourced their emotional regulation to everyone around them. That's not intimacy. That's dependency. Here's something critical. The victim mentality often masks deep shame. When you dig beneath the surface, you usually find someone who feels fundamentally unworthy. Being a victim is actually less painful than facing that core belief. If bad things happen to you, at least you matter enough to be targeted. At least your pain has a source. But if you're just inherently flawed, that's unbearable. So the victim narrative becomes armor against that deeper shame. It's a defense mechanism against the most painful belief of all, that maybe you're the problem. So you make everyone else the problem instead. Now let's discuss the recovery resistance. Here's the paradox. People with victim mentality often resist actual solutions. Offer help. They have excuses. Suggest therapy? Too expensive, or therapists don't understand. Share resources? Yeah, they tried that. Didn't work. It's not that they don't want to feel better. They do. But they want to feel better without changing the narrative. They want relief without responsibility. And unfortunately, that's not how growth works. Real healing requires giving up the victim identity. And for many people, that feels like death. So they stay stuck by choice. Here's what people don't understand about enabling. When you constantly validate someone's victim narrative without challenging them, you're actually hurting them. You think you're being supportive, but you're reinforcing the pattern. It's like giving alcohol to an alcoholic because they're stressed. Real support sometimes looks like gentle confrontation. It's saying, I see you're in pain, and I also see how you're contributing to it. That's love. Just agreeing with everything and offering endless sympathy, that's enabling. And it keeps them trapped in the very cycle they're complaining about. Tough love isn't mean. Sometimes it's necessary. Let's talk about the way out, because there is one. It starts with something psychologists call radical acceptance. Not accepting that bad things happened, that's valid, but accepting that you have agency now. Accepting that you're the only one who can change your story. Nobody's coming to save you. The people who wronged you probably won't apologize. Life isn't going to suddenly get fair. That sounds harsh, but it's actually liberating. Once you stop waiting for external validation or justice, you can focus on what you actually control. Your responses, your choices, your healing. The shift from victim to survivor to thriver is real, and it's powerful. A victim is stuck in the past. A survivor acknowledges what happened but isn't defined by it. A thriver uses their experiences as fuel for growth. This isn't toxic positivity. You don't have to be grateful for trauma, but you can decide it doesn't get to write your whole story. You can be both hurt by the past and responsible for the future. Those two things can coexist. The key is developing what's called post-traumatic growth, not despite the pain, but through it. So here's the bottom line. If you recognize these patterns in yourself, that's actually amazing. Self-awareness is the first step. You're not a bad person for having a victim mentality. You're a hurt person using the coping mechanisms you learned. But now you have a choice. You can keep collecting evidence that the world is against you, or you can start looking for evidence that you have power. Both types of evidence exist. What you look for, you'll find. So maybe it's time to look for something different. Your story isn't over. You're still writing it.